Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here to talk about the new PlayStation 2 classic that was just put up on PS Plus, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This is one of those games that I have incredibly fond childhood memories of, and as soon as I saw it pop up, I was like, I'm going to play this. I need to play this. I need to play this. This cannot be nearly as good as I remember it being. I remember it being one of my favorite Star Wars games as a kid. I played a ton of it, probably played through it 3 or 4 times, and I was just so excited to see it up here. We'll get to how good the actual game is in a second, but what Star Wars: The Clone Wars was this was the movie tie-in game back in the early 2000s when almost every major action sci-fi movie had some kind of tie-in video game to it. So this came out the same year as Episode 2, and it's actually, in my mind, kind of this interesting piece of history because this predates the Clone Wars movie, the Clone Wars animated series, and all of that other stuff that the Clone Wars has now become, because that is kind of the period of time that I feel like Lucasfilm has really kind of mined for every little thing in there. You know, Jedi Survivor is taking place during this time. Obviously, the shows, there's so much happening in this time period, and this predates all of it. And of course, with some of the canon resets and everything, it's not canon, but it's just such an interesting thing that, okay, here's the initial expansion of the concept of the Clone Wars was in this video game. And with that, it follows fairly closely if you've, paid attention to any Clone Wars cartoons or other expanded stories from that time period, where it's basically just all of the people you think going on missions to figure out what Dooku is doing and figure out what's going on with the clone army and where all this came from. It's all there. You get to play as all the people you would think. We've got Mace Windu, we've got Anakin, we've got Obi-Wan, we got all the big names are here for you to play as. Our story here starts during Episode 2, so it's actually Mace Windu on his way to the arena to go rescue them from the big arena scene in Episode 2 where all the Jedi show up. So it's kind of the opening is the beginning of that. You do a little bit with that, and then the rest of the game, that's maybe the first quarter of it. The rest of the game is basically just your generic Clone Wars story where, okay, Anakin and Obi-Wan are going to a mission, and they're going to this planet because they heard Dooku is doing something there, and what is Dooku doing, and how do we stop him from expanding this issue that we're having. And in this one, again, we find our ancient Sith weapon. It harvests force out of people. We gotta stop it because it will destroy the Jedi. Done. But again, being kind of that early Clone Wars thing, it's just interesting that, okay, somebody had this vision of this is kind of the road we're going to go down for this time period the entire time from the exact release of Episode 2. And because obviously this game would have been in development prior to release of Attack of the Clones. So let's talk about this game. Like I said, childhood favorite, not adult favorite. This is the most just simply dumb, fun arcade game you could have. There's not a ton here. It is about 85% vehicle combat. You play a tank, you play one of the clone gunships, and then there's a couple pieces where you play on foot as either Anakin or Mace Windu. Let's start with the vehicle combat. It's just, the controls are bad. It's hard to target it. There's no lock on. It's just kind of who you're pointing at targets. If you kind of try and there's strafe buttons, and if you use those, your target will sometimes just wobble back in between two things. So there'll be times where you think you're shooting at one, and the target will bounce. It's just the lock on sucks. There's nothing there. It's just kind of shooting randomly. We talked about Rebel Assault. It kind of has that same feeling of man, this is a product. This is an era of its time. And I wish it was better, but it is just kind of that 2002 PlayStation 2 game where, yeah, you're going to get some jank. You're going to get some issues with controlling. You're going to get some issues with targeting, all those things that kind of come with it, especially from what is just essentially a movie tie-in game to a gigantic movie. Another major issue with this is a lot of these are escort and protect missions, which I think as an industry we have slowly but surely realized those are not fun, and this game very much predates that concept. So there are several, the convoy's going here, protect the convoy. There are several, the base is getting attacked, stand here and defend the base, and the base has a health bar and it will get destroyed. A lot of that going on, a lot of just, okay, make sure the thing isn't blown up, and the thing moves really slow, and you don't have the best squad mates and you're kind of on your own. So it's just kind of one of those just frustrating things where there were a few times where it's just like I just rewound because I was like, okay, clearly I didn't notice the 2 ships in the back that I should have noticed that just took out half my convoy. If I rewind, I know they're there, I can turn around, get them, and then okay, we're good. So it just has that frustration feeling like, ugh, I wish I knew that was there. I wish I could, have a better hold on what was going on in this area so that I could really actually do something with that. Like I said, there's about 15% of this game that is on foot as either Mace Windu or Anakin. You get your lightsaber, you can throw it, you can force push, you can do all those cool Jedi moves that in 2002 you're like, hell yes, I'm a Jedi, look at me go. It is so laughably bad in this. There are squads of 4 to 5 battle droids running at you. There is no targeting, you're just wailing randomly. The lightsaber doesn't really block the bolts at all. You throw it, and the throw control is kind of connected to your movement control, so it's a little wonky when you throw it. The force push doesn't really do much. It's a lot of just running and swinging randomly at these guys and hoping you're hitting it because you cannot tell the hit detection. You cannot tell the distance. You don't have any firm sense of, is this attack going to land? Am I slightly aimed to the right? Am I the right distance? It's one of those things that you play and you can't even be frustrated with it just because of how bad it is, just because of how rough it is trying to figure out, am I doing good? I don't know. Luckily, when you play as them, you have such a gigantic health bar that even not killing anyone, even not hitting anyone, even just kind of almost ignoring the droids in a couple spots just because a lot of it is just, oh, you got to get into the building. So just run. You run past everybody and you're good. But again, it's so laughably bad that I couldn't even be frustrated with it just because it's like, all right, well, fine, this is stupid, I can't do it. We'll just run past everybody, no big deal. We're there. The concept in 2002 of playing as a Jedi, playing as Anakin Skywalker, Mace Windu, was just so cool that I think, again, 13-year-old me would have just been like, I'm a Jedi, it's fine, ignore it, this is fun, let's go. I realized like halfway through, as I was playing this, that I don't think I actually played the story mode of this. I think I remember like me and my brother and me and my couple of my friends being all in on the multiplayer. And there's no online in this. And in my current situation, I didn't have anybody who would be like, hey, come here and play Star Wars The Clone Wars from 2002 multiplayer with me, split screen on my couch for a second. So I didn't get to go back to that. But that is kind of clicking through the menu and looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, that's what this was. It's just 2 ships just running around shooting at each other. That was what I liked about this game. So it is weird to me that it's like, okay, the thing that I liked about this game, I didn't even get to try this time, so maybe that holds up a little bit better than this single player, but just overall, it's just kind of a mess. The story itself, like I said, it's laughably generic. There are no stakes. You know what's going to happen. We know everything. Again, I think in 2002, did we know that Dooku was going to die at the end of episode 3 and that he was just kind of such a throwaway? No, but especially like now, it's like, this is just such a throwaway story that is never referenced, never mentioned, and it's just such a little footnote of like, oh yeah, and this happened. That it's just, okay. I feel like now when we get some of these tie-in games, when we get games with franchises, there's stakes, there's those things, and this just is lacking it. It's short, I think is kind of, again, we talked about Rebel Assault a few weeks ago, and I feel like I'm just repeating the same things. I love Star Wars, and I love Star Wars games, so I keep playing these things, even though most of them are just not good, especially in hindsight. They don't hold up. But it's kind of that same thing where it's like, if you have 5 or 6 hours, you like Star Wars, you can file it. You can just shoot around in a gunship. You get to be Mace Windu for a minute. It's not fun. It's kind of frustrating. It's janky, but it's Star Wars. So here we are yet again, investing our time in that. So you can look out for whatever kind of old, nasty Star Wars game gets thrown up in the next month or two on PS Plus, because I'm sure we'll be talking about that, because even with these kind of quote-unquote bad experiences, they're not dissuading me from playing these, because, again, they don't hold up like I think they do, but I'm still having a good time because it has the word Star Wars on it, so regardless, I'm probably going to have a good time. I take that back because they put up the episode 1 game, and that was painfully bad. I made it like 3 hours and turned it off because I didn't like that one as a kid, and I still didn't like that one now. Don't think I ever got past the opening level on Naboo. Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to our channel. There's a link to support us on Coffee as well. We'll see you later.